Let's have a little fun and get AI to narrate this video. Should be interesting. Welcome back to Honeycomb Holler. We're going to show you the easiest way to make delicious, healthy bread right in your own kitchen. This would be a great time for y'all to hit the like and subscribe buttons. We appreciate your support.
First, let's go through the ingredients. 1.5 cups of warm, clean water. 2 teaspoons of dry active yeast. 2 teaspoons of kosher salt. And 3 cups of all-purpose flour. That's it. That's all you'll need. We said this was going to be an easy recipe. Go ahead and take a screenshot of this list of ingredients if it will help you remember.
Okay, let's get started. Grab a large clean bowl. Add the whole 1.5 cups of warm clean water. Add the 2 teaspoons of active dry yeast. You can use 1 teaspoon of yeast if you like, but I find that the dough rises better with 2. Proofing times are longer with the more yeast you add. Add the 2 teaspoons of kosher salt. Table salt will work as well. Whisk the warm water, yeast, and salt for 30 seconds. Then, let it rest for 5 minutes. Grab a cup of joe while you wait. Love that hot, spicy espresso. Embrace the suck. Sift your flour before measuring it. I use a butter knife to quickly aerate my flour before scooping it up. We use unbleached, but all-purpose flour is fine too. Add 3 cups of sifted flour to the bowl. You'll need a little extra flour for kneading with your hands later.
Next, use a rubber spatula to gently fold the flour into the liquid mixture from the sides of the bowl. Scraping and folding. You'll want to get all that flour into the dough. It's as easy as that. Just keep working the mixture into a dough. It'll get thicker as you go. You're almost there. If your dough mixture is a bit dry, just add a few tablespoons of water. But don't add too much. You don't want it to get soggy. And voila! Your dough ball is ready for proofing.
Alright, next, sprinkle some flour on your work surface and coat your hands as well. Scrape the dough out of the bowl onto your work surface. Be generous with the flour. Your dough will be sticky. At this point, you'll need to clean and dry your bowl thoroughly. You'll need it for the next steps. Coat your clean hands with flour and let's get to kneading that dough. You won't have to knead it for long, just a few minutes.
Now, fold and stretch your dough with your hands, rolling it around in the flour as you go. It'll start to feel rubbery and firm in just a few minutes. Just keep kneading that dough. You'll get the hang of it. Then, grab your clean dry bowl and sprinkle flour in it. Give your dough another minute of stretching and kneading, and don't be shy about it. If you give it lots of love, it'll be worth it in the end. By the way, that rubber mat that I'm using here is a game changer for dough making. I'll put a link in the show notes to where you can find this and some of the other kitchen tools I'm using. And just like that, your dough is ready to start proofing.
Place your ball of dough in the center of the bowl and sprinkle flour over all of it. Then, put a large plate on top of it. You're going to proof your dough in the oven, but do not turn the oven on. You'll want some warmth but no heat, so turn your oven light on. It will gently warm the inside of the oven. Perfect conditions for dough to rise. Put the bowl on the center rack and close the oven door with the light on inside. Set your timer for 4 hours if you use 2 teaspoons of yeast, or 2 hours if you only used 1 teaspoon of yeast. Every hour, you'll need to remove the bowl from the oven for a quick kneading. Kneading dough is essential in bread making because it activates and develops gluten, a protein complex in flour, which allows the dough to trap air bubbles created by yeast, leading to a light and airy texture when the bread rises and bakes. Using your rubber spatula, scrape the top edge of the dough away from the bowl. This will make it easier to roll out your dough onto your work surface. Sprinkle some flour over the top of your dough, then roll the dough ball around the inside of the bowl to separate it completely. Prepare your bowl with some more flour. You'll want to keep a thin coating between the dough and the bowl so that the dough can move when it rises during proofing. Fold and stretch and knead your dough ball to develop the gluten and remove the air bubbles. You'll repeat this step after the first, second, and third hour of proofing, but not at the end of the 4 hours. Form your dough back into a ball and return it to the bowl for its next hour of proofing.
Dust the top with a bit of flour and stick it back in the oven for its second hour. Repeat these steps after each hour, but not the last. You'll remove the dough, knead it, for a total of 3 times. If you chose to do the quick proof method, using only 1 teaspoon of yeast, you'll only proof for 2 hours. I prefer the longer 4-hour proofing because it produces a fluffier texture when baked. 4 hours have gone by with kneading after each hour. Now it's time to prepare the pan for baking. Remember, do not knead the dough after proofing the last hour. You'll put it right in the prepared pan and start baking. We bake our bread in a cast iron Dutch oven, but these directions will work for any pan you choose to use. We've used loaf pans, square pans, and even mini pans for tiny loaves. Prepare your pan with a bit of lubrication. Here you'll see I'm using Crisco all-vegetable shortening, but you can use cooking spray, oil, or butter. My preferred oil is butter, but I was running low on butter this day.
Preheat your oven to 450 degrees and set the pan in the oven while it's preheating to melt your butter or shortening. Don't let it burn. A cast iron pan tends to heat up fast and can burn the butter. It's time to put your dough in the oiled pan and start baking. Score the top of your dough with a sharp knife, unlike the one that I'm using here. If you're using a cast iron Dutch oven, bake it with the lid on it. Bake on 450 degrees for 35 minutes. Remove from the oven and immediately take the bread from the pan so that it stops cooking. Place on a cooling rack and rejoice in the awesomeness that's become of you. You are now a master bread maker, and self-reliance is your secret weapon.
Wow. Just look at this amazing loaf of bread. Fresh out of the oven, steaming hot, crispy crust and moist on the inside. I mean, yeah, I'll have a bite. Just 4 ingredients, some proofing, and a bit of kneading, and just 35 minutes in the oven. Anyone can make their own bread at home. It's inexpensive and it's easy. Leave a comment and tell us how you did with this project. Honeycomb holler out.